Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Talking About Birds, the only Cardinal podcast with less respect than Luken Baker. My name is Nate Heininger, and I am joined, as always, by my co-host, Ben Sawarka.
Hey, Nate!
If you have an idea for the opening bit, text or leave us a voicemail at 848-48-BIRDS. Hambone, we're back. Happy birthday to America.
Wow, yeah.
How you feeling?
I feel good. This is a holiday that I enjoy, Nate. You might be
Rare.
surprised to hear that. This is a holiday that I enjoy. The weather is
You like
lovely.
scaring cats and dogs and veterans with loud explosions and things like that?
Now, I actually do have a big problem with that. Of course, because I don't know, we're broken as a species. People just shoot off, and I'm sure this happens everywhere, but definitely in my neighborhood, people just have been shooting off fireworks for the past 2 weeks. And, we're lying around at night watching the bear, catching up on the bear.
The bear.
And Jeffy, so we have one cat who's idiot and doesn't realize that anything is happening outside of her own brain. And then we have Jeffy, who is a ball of anxiety. And every time there's a pop, he looks at us as though the roof is about to cave in on him. And it does break my heart. And veterans and dogs too. It's obnoxious.
Yeah.
That is the firework, the lack of firework respect that we have today is the most curmudgeon-y yelling at the clouds thing. It drives me thing go boom and it drives me nuts and it makes me feel old and insane and grouchy.
I love looking at next door and everybody just going gunshots over and over and over. I share the frustration, as a cat owner as well. That said, in a controlled environment, I love fireworks. It's something I've always loved.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I'm going to bring fireworks. I bring fireworks with me everywhere I go, but I don't pop them off all times of night and
jury duty.
And abuse the puppies and kitties in the neighborhood. That's what it comes down to.
Yeah. Think about the puppies.
Yeah. It's not like you can sit down with your puppies and kitties and be like, all right, we have a neighbor who's probably had 15 Modelo's and he's going to go shoot off fireworks at 12:30 tonight. They think, I don't know, it's ending. It's over.
Yeah. I think I've told this story on the pod before, but one time, I think it was New Year's Eve, we were in the house and midnight struck and we just heard this very loud, thunk, 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 thunk. And at first you think that's fireworks. But then it was louder than you would expect. It was more consistent than you'd expect. And so we went and looked out our back window and our neighbor, 2 doors down, was just firing a automatic weapon just straight up into the sky. It's cool guy. This is great. I love this for us and for everyone on the other end of wherever that's going to fall.
Yeah, I think we've talked about this on the pod because I have a neighbor who, if the Broncos are doing well or it's New Year's, he shoots a revolver into the sky. So it's great.
Let's go Bronx, Peyton Manning.
Luckily, the Broncos have been pretty bad for the past couple of years, so I don't have to worry about it. It's only one time a year he does the revolver into the sky.
Yeah. All the Denver teams are pretty bad, right? Except for the Nuggets.
I was going to say the Nuggets should have made it to the finals. The Rockies are the Rockies. The Avs are pretty solid, and the Broncos are in a weird situation right now. I'm going, Nathan.
Well, I was about to get to this. Yeah.
I'm going to a footy match this weekend against STL City and whatever the Denver team is called?
It's the Colorado Rapids,
Rapids.
owned by St. Louis favorite Stan Kroenke, who
Yes.
owns like half of the Denver teams.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm excited for you. How are you feeling about going?
I couldn't really care either way. I'll get drunk, and it's close to my house, so I like that.
Yeah. Here's my recommendation for you as someone who has learned to enjoy soccer. Because I didn't for my entire life until STL City started, and now I'm really into it, as I've talked about on the show a lot. You're going to the game. That's the best way to engage in any sort of sport, right?
Okay.
Being at the game. Pick a team. Obviously, I would say you should pick City, but you're in Denver if you want to pick the Rapids, whatever. Pick a team and just decide that you really care and react appropriately through the entire game. It's the only sport I've been to where everybody stands and screams. It's the sport of righteous indignation. Okay.
Yeah. I'm
Someone
not
falls
standing
on the
whole
ground.
game.
What's that?
I'm not standing the whole game. I will tell you that right now.
It's not that long of a game. I know this is tough for you. And maybe they don't do this in Colorado, thinner air and whatnot. But it's not that hard to stand for 45 minutes.
The game is only 45 minutes?
Well, and there's two halves, The whole game is like 2 hours.
Why am I? Okay.
It's awesome. Decide that you care and that you are deeply personally offended if anything even remotely positively certainly looks negative happening to your team, whether it's true or not. Decide that it's the most important thing that's ever happened to you and make sure everyone around you knows about that. And you'll have a great time.
I can't even pretend to care about this conversation. How am I going to pretend to care about something like? Okay, all right, fine, I'll do that.
You'll have Joe will be there. He'll Sherpa you through the rules.
I don't care.
Just scream.
Okay,
just scream and decide you care.
All right,
and I think you'll have a good time.
I care now.
Look at me, I'm caring.
All right, I'm feeling angry just the way that you're speaking at me right now, but
channel this energy towards the bullshit referees of soccer.
Okay. I'll do that.
There was at the game I went to a couple of weeks ago, and this happens to almost every single game. There was a chant of essentially 20,000 people screaming in unison, "Refs, you suck! Refs, you suck!"
No, that's good. That I can get excited about.
That's what I'm saying. It's fun. It's the sport of righteous indignation. You are justified in your anger.
Yeah.
And everyone around you needs to know.
All right. I will try to open my mind in between now and then, but I hope to hate it.
Well, that might fit right in. Just make sure everyone around you knows that you hate all of this, and you'll fit right in.
All right, perfect.
Are you doing anything fun for the 4th, though?
Yeah, we're having the homies are coming over to my house.
Shoot off some fireworks.
Going to shoot off some fireworks, obviously. I am going to smoke some wings. I am going to grill some shrimp.
Wow.
And I'm going to make some Dole Whips for a little summer treat.
Can you home make a Dole Whip? I thought that was a pretty branded specialty thing.
I mean, it's just like pineapple and ice cream. It's pretty easy. There's like 3 ingredients.
Well, sure, but it's like saying I'm gonna make some Big Macs.
Are you worried that I'm infringing upon the company Dole's branding? Is that's
what it is? Yeah, I'm hoping you paid the licensing fee.
Shut the hell up, you idiot!
You're gonna get this show. We're gonna get a takedown from Dole,
or a sponsorship.
Hey, I'll take it.
I'll be making a pineapple whipped dessert. How about that?
Thank you very much.
Fucking piece of shit.
I still haven't had a Dole Whip.
Come on over.
They've got them at the zoo here in St. Louis. I just haven't gone and gotten one.
Yeah. Well,
I don't want your shitty Dole Whips.
Okay.
Ben Hole Whips.
All right. Well, this has been really fun today.
Should we talk about the Cardinals? You want to do that?
Yeah. Hey, Nate, before we do, can I hit you with a little bit of trivia at the top?
Okay.
All right. This is StatCast era only, Nathan.
Okay.
Who has the hardest hit home run for your St. Louis Cardinals? And again, StatCast era only. So that is 2015 till today.
Hardest hit home run.
Hardest hit home run.
Okay. Wilson Contreras.
Incorrect. You're so stupid.
Damn it.
Would you like to try another guess? Would you like a hint?
Sure, I'll take a hint.
He was recently discussed in the Bird Scored. That's a hint that only works for a handful of people, but you're in the Bird Scored, so
I am in it, but I'm struggling to think of the specific conversation. A lot of people are discussed in the Bird Scored. Nolan Gorman.
He is known for one play on defense in particular.
Man, now I feel like an idiot. I don't know. Just tell me.
Marcell Ozuna, April 3rd, 2018. Exit velocity of 117.2 miles per hour against your Milwaukee Brewers. So, yeah. I just thought that was interesting.
No negative. I was thinking like known for a play like, you know, like a general type of play, not a specific play like as expert as we saw of Marcell Ozuna climbing a wall, falling on his face, and missing a catch.
Yeah, flopping
iconic moment,
like a dead fish.
What makes you think, or what is bringing Marcell Ozuna to mind for you?
Well, we were just talking about him. He's having a very good season.
Yes,
he's had back-to-back very good seasons. And we were talking about him in the Bird Scored recently, and I was just thinking about, it's kind of been stuck in my mind about how I think that trade made sense at the time, and it just, every aspect of it spidered out to go the worst possible direction for the St. Louis Cardinals. I think the primary, because the thing that the Cardinals actually had control over it, or to some degree, I guess, was that Marcell Ozuna, he went from this like pretty good defensive center fielder with like 25 home run pop. And now he is a DH that hits for high average and high power. And the Cardinals got him in this like in between state where he wasn't really a good enough hitter and he wasn't a good enough outfielder. So he's just kind of this like 2.5 WAR nothing player that we ended up trading 2 Cy Young candidates away for.
Mm-hmm.
And if the Cardinals would have gotten the DH version, the slugging 40 home run guy, that would have been interesting, or the center fielder would have been interesting. And it's just funny how baseball goes sometimes. He's only like 33.
Yeah.
And, he's like a fixture of one of the better offenses in recent memory. It's funny how that shakes out.
Yeah, I think like many of the trades that are pretty maligned at this point, like at the time, it was viewed as a massive win. I think we were all incredibly excited about the Marcell Ozuna trade. He had just come off of a huge season with the Marlins.
Coming off an almost 6 WAR season.
Yeah. And if you remember at the time, it started with the Stanton nonsense. Yep. The Cardinals essentially had a deal for Stanton, but he had to pick between the Cardinals and the Yankees, and he chose the Yankees. And so then they pivoted to Ozuna. There was also discussion of Yelich, but the Marlins were saying, we're not trading Yelich. Ozuna is on the block. And the Cardinals made what everyone felt like was a really strong deal, trading some pieces, what looked like fringe bullpen pieces, things like that, for Ozuna. And it felt like we got the real guy. I remember people at the time saying the Stanton trade is cool, but like we got the real long-term piece with Ozuna.
He was coming into his age 27 season, which is typically the peak for these types of players.
Yeah. And then of course, like a month later, the Marlins do end up trading Yelich to the Brewers. I think it was for Lewis Brinson, who was a very well regarded prospect at the time.
He was the centerpiece, and there were a couple other guys around.
Yeah, and it's obviously turned into a massive win for the Brewers. And I think the Yankees are probably generally okay with how it went for them with Stanton, but I bet they'd also be okay if that had never happened. And then obviously, like we got two. Looking at it now, he had a 107 WRC plus his first year with us, and a 110 his second year. So it was not absent of value, but it was not, obviously it was not what anybody wanted.
Yeah.
I mean, the Cardinals went to the NLCS in 2019, which we like completely memory hold because of how it went. But
Yeah.
he was a part of that team of a any other, if it wasn't for how badly beaten they got in 2019 by the Nationals, I think we would all think of the 2019
Right.
season as a pretty fondly as a very successful year.
And it's just, yeah, I agree. And it's just funny. Like I'm just looking at his numbers. In 2019, he had a 110 WRC plus, 2.1 WAR, like you just talked about. And then in 2020, in 60 games, he has a 178 WRC plus,
Yeah.
and he clips his WAR in either season with the Cardinals in a pandemic shortened season, and just kind of took off. Now, obviously, we're into legal issues, and he's kind of a piece of shit, and
Yeah,
all the
so
other
I
stuff
was
that came
gonna
out. But
say it went downhill pretty rapidly for him actually right after that. It's only been these last 2 years where it's been kind of a resurgence.
yeah,
So it's been an interesting career path for him. And yeah, right now, I mean, he's not going to really be like an MVP candidate because he's a DH only and whatnot. But as far as offensive speaking, he is exactly that. He has a 161 WRC
yeah.
plus right now.
Well, yeah. Okay. We don't need to talk about Marcel anymore, but yeah, just he was kind of on my mind, and I saw that stat, and I was like, of just I don't know, it kind of fits in perfectly with the weird nature of his Cardinals tenure. Of course, he still holds the hardest hit home run
Yeah,
for us.
I'm pretty surprised that 117. I guess obviously that's super hard hit,
Yeah.
but there's been plenty more of that around the league. I'm kind of surprised. Like Wilson, one of his, he didn't get behind it a little bit more and break that.
Yeah, wouldn't surprise me if he eclipses that at some point, or Gormy eclipses that at some
Yeah.
point. Somebody on the team can definitely outdo that.
Yeah. Well, you know who I think they should give a shot to.
What a big league segue, Nathan. Wow.
So Ben and I, the little peek behind the curtain, Ben typically puts together the like outline what we're going to discuss, and then I go in and we kind of talk through it before we get started. But I'll do my stupid opening joke. I come up with that before on my own, and we both had kind of aligned separately that today we need to talk about Luken Baker.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know what more this dude needs to do. I know that his defensive profile is limited,
Yeah.
and there's only so many at bats there with Goldie and with the DH. But at what point do we give this guy a legitimate shot? He's absolutely raking in the minors. I think you've got some numbers here if you want to run through them real quick.
I mean, no matter how you slice it, the guy's playing well. So 72 games played at AAA right now. He has a over 13% walk rate, which I think is amazing. His strikeout rate has dropped down to 22%, which is amazing. He has an ISO of over 300. He is absolutely obliterating the ball. 23 home runs, and he has a 562 slug, which is totaling for a 124 WRC plus. Now that 124 WRC plus doesn't exactly leap off the page by any means, but what should be noted is that he has a 222 BABIP right now, meaning that for a guy that hits the ball as hard as he does, now obviously he's not quick or anything like that, so he might run a slightly lower BABIP than you would normally want, but that is at least, even if you're not being overly generous, 40 points that should be added to him. So he's hitting 229 right now. Let's say that if he wasn't getting so unlucky, he'd be hitting in the 260s range, somewhere like that. With all those bombs, the Cardinals have a massive problem with right-handed power. To me, it makes sense. You can give Paul Goldschmidt days off of his feet, let Luken Baker play first base, and when Wilson Contreras is catching, he should be starting at DH. Now, I agree when Wilson is sitting from catcher and Pages is catching, I think Wilson should hit over Luken Baker. I don't even think there's really a discussion about that. But he should be picking up spot starts at first and DHing. He's 27 years old. He's built like a house. He is on fire.
Yeah.
And he's sustained it for, the first half of the season. So it is time to call him up.
Yeah, I agree completely. Like all the underlying metrics look good. If not, like you said, the underlying metrics almost, or like they showcase his surface level stats could be even better,
Yes.
right? With a little bit more luck. I've seen comps to Christian Walker. Now, Christian Walker is also a Gold Glove first baseman. Luken, like maybe one of the best defensive players in baseball who happens to play first base. So it's not a pure comp because I don't think anyone is saying Luken Baker is going to do that at first base. But the similar type of guy who comes up, I'm doing air quotes here for the podcast, like later in life as a 27-year-old, and absolutely crushes the ball at the major league level. I also saw like Max Muncy as another type of comp for him, at least offensive profile. And I certainly seems to me that the Cardinals could absolutely use someone like that. And I hate to say it, we've been talking about this off and on for the last year. But it might be time to start looking at what the Cardinals look like without Paul Goldschmidt. And it might be big old Luken Baker standing at first base, hitting 30 bombs a year. Like that might be both the best thing for the next couple years, and it could even be the best thing for right now. And I hate that because we all love future Hall of Famer Paul Goldschmidt. But you've got this dude crushing at the minor league level, and maybe it's time to start sprinkling him in a little bit more, giving Goldie some more days off, seeing what you've got in Luken Baker, because I don't know what else he can do in the minors.
I don't know what else he can do, and it's an obvious need for the team. Arenado is not going to sit because of all the baggage that comes with a Nolan Arenado. I think Paul Goldschmidt maybe is a little more likely to sit. The problem with Paul Goldschmidt, and I'm not trying to sit here and say that the at-bats have been where they need to be and what I expect him to be, but he has been underperforming his underlying metrics. There is room for growth. If you look at his expected batting average, expected slug, expected WOBA, his hard hit percentage, his barrel percentage, all of those things should add up to him being more productive than he has been this year. But the fact of the matter is that, like Nate said, he is getting older. It seems less and less likely that he is going to play first base for the St. Louis Cardinals next year for a myriad of reasons, unless there's a real team-friendly deal coming at the end of this year, which I don't think is completely out of the question.
Mm-hmm.
And I guess just while we're talking about that, I'd like to say there is absolutely no chance in hell the Cardinals are trading Paul Goldschmidt this year. I know I've seen some people talking about that online. I think Katie Wu got this question recently. It is absolutely not going to happen. I can't even think of the scenario. The only I can't think of what it would be if Jordan Walker becomes a Super Saiyan over the next month, and we have to put him at. I don't. This I can't think of the scenario. So he's going to be here. I think that there is a way to get Luken Baker and Paul Goldschmidt ABs, and I don't think it's that difficult. But I think the time is now.
Yeah, obviously there is still some belief in Goldschmidt. Like you said, if you look under the hood, if you look at his StatCast page, there's still a fair amount of red, expected WOBA in the 330s, which is not career average for him. But if he had a 330 WOBA as surface results, we'd be feeling a lot better about Paul Goldschmidt right now. And I think that's.
I mean, if he was hitting above 250,
Yeah.
I mean, it's just been rough.
Yeah. I have to imagine that's also it's the underlying numbers, the expected numbers is more why Goldschmidt has stayed in his exact same spot in the lineup, more or less, whereas Arenado has been dropped. I I mean, it could be the respect play,
Yeah.
but they're dropping Arenado, and I feel like I mean, I know Goldie's been here a little bit longer, but like, I wouldn't imagine that Goldie would get the like respect. You're staying in your spot in the lineup, and Arenado wouldn't.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Well, I mean, the Arenado of it all is I mean, we're
It's
going to talk
complicated.
about Tim Anderson later. Like, I'm not saying that this is that bad, but Arenado's fall off, at least through the first half of this year, is kind of not legendary is not the right word, but kind of not historical is not the right word. It's massive. I'll just say that he
Yeah,
has gone from being a league average exit velocity guy to a well below league average exit velo. His hard hit percentage is under 30, which he has never done in his career. And like people who have a hard hit percentage under 30 are like Luis Arias. Like it's a totally different style of player altogether.
yeah,
It is amazing and horrible. I do think if I had to place a bet today, we're recording on July 3rd, of who's going to have a better second half, Nolan Arenado or Paul Goldschmidt, I'd probably say Paul Goldschmidt
yeah,
because of those underlying metrics. He is still hitting the ball hard. He's not making the best swing decisions. And that might be a vision thing and might be a timing thing. I don't know. But he's still, when he makes contact, it goes. He's still barreling it up. His bat speed is still above average for a guy that's in his late 30s. It's kind of amazing. And Nolan, I mean, we don't need to dunk on him right now, I guess, but
yeah.
it's just not going that way.
Man, have you ever looked at Aaron Judge's Statcast page?
Yeah, that's just fun.
If you just like looking at good baseball players
Yeah.
and what it looks like when you look at these dudes, like we're like with the way the Cardinals season has been for the last year and a half, I'm so used to pulling up Statcast and being like, well, if you dig through this and like there's a little red here and like, there's some signs here that this is turning around or whatever.
Yeah.
And then you just pull up Aaron Judge's and it's like, it looks like in-state video game world where you're like, yeah, I've been doing Road to the Show in the show for 3 years straight. Now my guy throws 107 mile per hour two-seam fastball.
Is
like,
today, is this, I'm only speaking about right now, is Aaron Judge the best player in baseball?
it's hard to argue against that. I mean, I think you could still maybe look at Ohtani, because Ohtani is essentially doing the same, but also stealing bases.
Yeah. But he's
Judge
not
is
playing
hitting
defense.
What's that?
He's not playing defense.
True. So overall player, yeah, you did say player, not just like hitter or offensive player. Yeah, it'd be really hard to argue for anyone other than Judge.
He's amazing.
Yeah, including that defense side of it. Although he doesn't rate as well defensively, but he is playing defense, which Ohtani is not. So that's fair.
Yeah.
But anyway, going all the way back, Baker should be called up, and
Yes.
I hope it happens soon.
I think the only aspect of calling up Baker that's maybe somewhat complicated is who do you send down? Obviously, you can't send Pages away. Brandon Crawford is still on this team. Jose Fermin probably makes the most sense. He also has been a bit of a ghost. We haven't seen him play much. And then there's Dylan Carlson, who I think, again, there's nothing else to do with Dylan Carlson and is just help him or hope he figures it out at the big league level. So I guess I just talked myself into it. It's pretty simple. Swap him for Jose Fermin, and maybe give the guy some at-bats, which they have not been doing for Jose at all.
Yeah. I mean, and I know it's not like for like, but Matt Carpenter. There's that opportunity too.
Matt Carpenter is the starting DH right now.
I know.
Matt Carpenter is on this team. Also leadership, also beardsmanship, also grittiness, also conversations in the dugout.
The salt and pepper beard,
Yeah,
it's looking great. He's looking good up there.
So, I mean,
That's it. That matters.
he's not moving.
No, he's rarely moving. You're right.
He's only got an 8.5 walk rate this year, which is by far the worst of his career.
Well, when you grip it and rip it as well as he does, you're not up there to draw a walk. You know what I mean?
Not to overuse ISO in this, but it tries to just focus on his power numbers. Like a decent ISO is around 200. His ISO is 0.097. So I'm not sure gripping it and ripping it is the best way to describe Matt Carpenter's performance this year. He made a play at second base, though. Did you? Have we talked about that?
No.
He looks good. Better than I expected him to look.
Yeah, sure. You know, he still got a little bit in him.
Gritty, gutty, white guy. Let's go.
If you don't know what ISO is specifically, you just subtract their batting average from their slugging. So it's basically like how many more than singles are they hitting?
How many slug do you do?
How many slug do you do?
Yeah.
No, I'm thinking about Slugworth from. Have you seen the new Wonka movie with Timothy Chalamet?
No. It looks so stupid to me.
It's fine.
Yeah.
I think it's kind of fun. But it's like not Willy Wonka. You know what I mean?
Well, like if there's a problem that we have right now of filling in backstory for characters who do not need their backstory filled in. Yeah. And I think the best part about Wonka is that he's just insane. I don't want to see young Wonka.
Totally. Or if you're gonna give me young Wonka, my rapper name, Young Wonka. If you're gonna give me young Wonka, make him an asshole. Old Wonka's an asshole, or let me understand how he becomes an asshole.
Yeah.
He's a little freak, you know what I mean? And in Timothy Chalamet's Wonka, he's just like a nice guy who's just trying to do his best. And he is through the whole thing. I kept waiting for him to be scorned and, become like jaded and twisted. And instead it's just like, wow, we love a Willie. So
I do want to see the new Horizon movie, the 3-hour cowboy movie. That's a little more my style.
Yeah, I saw there's like a picture online. It was someone trying to reserve seats for that movie.
Yeah.
And it was exclusively single seats had been sold, just, pockmarked throughout the theater.
Yeah.
So it was like, this is a movie for single people to go see.
Yeah. I mean, it's a 3-hour
cowboy movie.
It's part 1 of 4, by the way.
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to it. And guess what? I have friends that want to go. So
wow,
I'll be at least 2 of those seats.
There you go. As opposed to how you normally buy 2 seats.
Because I'm fat. Yeah.
Because you lift the middle one. And
yeah. That was really good.
You need another seat for all your nachos and hot dogs. And stuff.
It's not my body. It's just all my treats. Now that sounds, I'm for that. That sounds great. I need a seat for my Budweiser and my French fries.
Can you bring the butter spigot out and install it in the seat next to me?
Why haven't they already done that, Nate? Like, what do I got to go talk to a guy for butter? He's going to judge me. Why can't I get my own butter at my seat?
I'm just sick of having to talk to people and move for butter. America 2020. Vote for me. America 2024.
No Yikes.
Big yikes. What do you want to talk about next, Cardinals?
I want to talk about the month of June a little bit, and it's obviously it's done. We killed it.
We did it.
On to the next.
May there never be another.
On to the next. There might not. And we kind of talked about going into June what was important for the Cardinals, and I think I was ranting and raving about the the home run imbalance, right?
Right.
So I thought it'd be fun to follow up on that. The Cardinals had the best record over the month of June in the National League. Why was that? Well, one of those reasons is because they gave up the fewest number of home runs. They're tied with the Royals. They only gave up 20 over the entire month, which is obviously amazing. Any month, any team, that's a crazy low number,
Yeah.
averaging less than one per game in today's game isn't easy.
Wow.
So that was amazing. And then maybe slightly less impressive is that the team was able to outpace that small number homer wise. They hit 29 home runs over the month, put them, I think, that right at 15 or 16th overall in the big leagues, which is a very encouraging sign. And I think, you know, if you heard that the Cardinals were middle of the pack in home runs in the national or in the league in the month of June, and we knew that essentially we had no Wilson Contreras that entire time, Nolan Gorman was not a factor the entire, or not really a factor the
Not
entire time.
really. Yeah.
I mean, that's kind of amazing that they were even able to scrape what they did together.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, best record in the NL in the month. Like, what more can you ask for? It's exactly what they needed to do to keep this season relevant. Anything less than that, and they are multiple games back of any sort of playoff picture right now, and we're probably talking more earnestly about what selling looks like. But they did it, and here we are, July 3rd, and while it is a very small lead, they are still in sole position of a wild card spot. And the Braves have been struggling a little bit, and the Cardinals are actually 2.5 games back from the number one wild card spot. And I mean, it's a full season turnaround. Now, I think you and I and most Cardinal fans have a healthy amount of skepticism and just general malaise about the team that it's going to take, I think, at least another month of real success. Maybe not best in the NL, like that's an unreasonable expectation for any team. But we need to see this for much longer than we have to really start to switch the gears into like, this is a good team. Like this team could, they're not the best in the NL. They're not going to compete with the Dodgers, like on paper or the Phillies on paper. Although the Phillies just had 2 major injuries. But like
Trey Turner is also back, and he hit 2 home runs last night.
He is back. They're just a good team. But like, maybe we're in this period of we can transition into like this team is good or at least not bad. But again, I think we all want to see it a little bit more because it is also like just again best record. It took a full month of the best record in baseball to get back to like a reasonable level, and that's because the first 2 months of the season it was just bad.
Well, something that might blow your mind a smidge about the Cardinals' performance in the month of June. We'll stick on the offense right now. We're talking about home runs, and those kind of came up and down. Burley, probably unsurprisingly, led the team in homers this month with 7, which, I mean, when did we talked about it? What was a month and a half ago? We were ranting and raving about the Burley breakout. I mean, I think we can feel pretty justified that he is here. He is with us. He has risen, which is great.
Chief Beef.
Brendan Donovan had the most productive month of any Cardinal player, and his was kind of contributed all over the place, but playing a decent defense and obviously hitting well. Michael Ciani tied with Alec Burleson and Ivan Herrera as far as production in the month of June. He put up a little over half a WAR. He hit 277. The guy can't walk to save his life. There's not much power there, but that kind of shocked me a little bit that his defense alone. I mean, he is, depending on what defensive metrics you subscribe to, he's the best center fielder in baseball right now. Like, what the hell? We like found this guy under a Reds colored rock they gave him up. It's amazing.
Yeah, I don't know what to make of it. Right now I've taken the stance of enjoy the ride, you know. Um, but we've had a lot of debate on this show about like who do the Cardinals run out in center field when Dylan Carlson's back, when Lars Nootbaar's back, who's playing center field, when Edman, if you've ever heard of that guy, when he comes back,
Yeah.
who's playing center field, and Siani's done everything exactly right to prove to all of us that we need to shut the hell up and just let him cook. He needs to be the center fielder right now.
How do you dislodge the best center fielder in baseball from his position?
Yeah.
Like
You don't.
if they took Harrison Bader out of center field when he was hitting, a $150 or whatever, I think we all would have screamed at him. And I think we're kind of looking at a less vibey Harrison Bader right now.
Yeah. And defensively, if I may go back to my little metrics here, don't look at the offensive ones for Siani on StatCast. It's maybe the opposite of Aaron Judge, but he is in the 100th percentile in range as a center fielder.
He's the best.
He's the best.
He's the guy. It's amazing.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah. I just needed to highlight that. And then I do want to talk about the pitching. Sonny Gray, I think I just feel like he's not getting enough credit. He's a Cy Young candidate. He had an amazing month.
Yeah.
He put up almost a 1.5 WAR. He led the team in innings, led the team in strikeouts, unless your name is Ryan Helsley, or strikeout percentage, sorry, unless your name is Ryan Helsley. And he had a 3.53 ERA. His underlying metrics look even better than that. He was amazing. Ryan Helsley just won NL reliever of the month. He has, what is it, 31 closes?
He got his 31st last night, which also set a Cardinal record for most before the All-Star break, which, the save stat is a little bit fluky because, the Cardinals have won an insane amount of small or one-run games.
Yeah.
So he's had an incredible amount of opportunities, and just having a lot of save opportunities doesn't necessarily mean you're on a good or bad team. So there's some like exposure, what's the word I'm looking for? Like, volume in that category doesn't necessarily mean extreme success. But in this case, it's both. He's had a ton of opportunity because of all of the 1 run or less than 3 run games that the Cardinals have been playing. And he's pretty much been unstoppable in every single one of his opportunities. There's been little moments, I know it's been talked about in the Bird Scored too, where like he just looks uncomfortable on the mound sometimes. And you get a little worried about his command. He'll walk a guy or two, and he's not infallible, but overall, I mean, this has been one of the more dominant performances from a reliever that we've seen, not just as a Cardinal, but just in baseball. I think, you're saying Siani is the best center fielder in baseball right now, which I have a hard time repeating, but
defensively.
Yeah. Helsley might be, or is, the best reliever in baseball right now. And I know we talked about this last year, and I think this reinforces that. It's hard to put like an entire season on one person's shoulders, or a single injury, having an impact across the entire team and the entire season. But we talked last year, did the Helsley injury last year, was that the breaking point of 2023? And the lack of Ryan Helsley, was that the source of the main problem the Cardinals had in 2023? And considering how good the bullpen's been, considering how well the Cardinals have done in 1-run games, or in small run games, and the success that Helsley's had, it kind of looks that way, right? Is he the most important player on this team?
I mean, I think. Luckily, I think the bullpen is in a much better place generally this year than it was last year. Like, if Helsley did have to miss a closing opportunity, if Ryan Fernandez or Kittredge or Jojo Romero went out, I wouldn't be screaming, and I think the Cardinals would be fine. Now, if he was out for a couple of months, I might go back to feeling that way, because I think that it's that nature of like, it is the style that you of losing games when the back of your bullpen is bad that I think is really tough to get back
Mm-hmm.
to the ballpark the next day, and for the
Yeah.
fans and for the players. Like, the players are just players, like humans. They cannot forget, oh my God, we've lost 20 games in a row, we've lost 20 games in the ninth this year. That hurts. And it's not easy to just forget that. So I think there is a nature of like, having somebody be successful in the ninth inning makes everybody else's job, even if it's 5% easier. And if your job is 5% easier than the team that you're playing, then you might win that game. I do
Right.
think that, it's unquantifiable, really, because he has really only thrown 13 innings in the month of June. And it's, obviously Sonny Gray is more important than that.
Right.
Obviously, Alec Burleson is more important than that. But from a vibes, from a team, from like a winning standpoint, it's hard to argue against what you said.
Yeah. Well, and the elephant in the room as far as the Cardinals' success goes is that their run differential is pretty bad, and their Pythagorean win prediction is pretty bad.
Yeah.
And so these things happen in small sample sizes, but it essentially, the Cardinals have gotten kind of the inverse of last year, is that the Cardinals have performed considerably better in one-run games
Right.
this year than they did last year. And it's hard not to say that's, some of it's luck. It's absolutely luck, sequencing of when, people have bad games, when relievers have bad games, when particular hitters have good games and whatnot. But without Ryan Helsley and those 13 innings, if half of those ended up being losses instead, we're down 4 games in the wild card, and everything just feels fundamentally different.
You're under 500. Everyone hates the team. You're
Yeah.
breaking the team up in 28 days or whatever.
Yeah.
That's the fact of them, and that's half of his performances.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, it's kind of amazing, but God bless Ryan Helsley.
Yeah. All right, there's a few transactions that we want to talk about, a couple updates on some movements as well, and some rehab. So I think the biggest one, Gordon Graceffo, has made his MLB debut. Briefly, we saw him in relief, felt similar to like a Kloffenstein sort of thing, but we saw him in relief, looked pretty good overall. How'd you feel about Graceffo's MLB debut?
I thought he looked fantastic. I thought that he made an argument to stay. He faced what he threw. Sorry, pulling it up. He threw 4 1/3. He only gave up 3 hits, 1 earned run. He got 4 strikeouts, and the stuff looked better than I thought it was going to look. I don't know. He was throwing gas. He was getting that fastball, that heater above the strike zone. His breaking balls were working. I thought he looked really good. I thought he looked so good that, like, maybe he's first in line if Andre Palante scuffles, or if another pitcher gets hurt, that he might be the first name I'm calling. But
they've kind of broken the seal on him at this point, right? Like, he's up, he's done it. So I have to imagine he's pretty high on that list.
Yeah. So no notes. Looked great. He he didn't even look like he was nervous, or I don't know. He looked great. Yeah. I have nothing else to say other than give me more Graceffo.
Yeah. It's also fun to see, there's a guy we've talked about for quite a while, some ups and downs. Yeah. It's cool to see him make his major league debut.
Yeah, absolutely.
The Cardinals also called up
you got
very
this.
well-known prospect.
You got this.
Equally equally as revered. Jacob Bosiokovic,
Bosiokovic.
Bosiokovic,
Kovic.
from the Memphis Redbirds. He's pitched 30 innings at Memphis this year, has pretty good results. He's kind of a journeyman. I think he comes from your home turf, Ben. He was a Colorado Rocky before. So can you give us a little scouting report on this guy?
So according to Baseball Reference, the pronunciation is Bosiokovic.
Bosiokovic. It's a fun name.
I know that he was a first baseman when he was a Rocky. I know that he had a little bit of power and washed out. End of list.
Yeah.
He was a 19th round pick in 2016. There's another factoid I can throw at you. But yeah, he's converted to pitching, and it seems to be going well. He's kind of like a older, I don't know. The Cardinals have these guys, like a Roy Croftian type dude. And if he clicks, he clicks.
With these, bullpens are filled with these guys all over the league. He had pretty good K per nine in his time at Memphis. So
he's striking guys out. He's walking guys a little effectively wild. And the Cardinals are being, I have a lot of problems with the front office. I continue to applaud the way that they have handled the bullpen. I think this is a continuation of that. Let's keep trying, guys, especially if they're having good numbers. If they're striking guys out, maybe it'll work in the big leagues. But yeah, I love it.
Low risk, maybe high reward, but I agree.
It kind of bums me out that he's not washed out by any means, but a kind of like a post prospect hype type guy was born in 1993. That kind of bums me out. But I guess every day above ground is good.
There you go. All right, Noot has began his rehab assignment.
Yeah.
I'm excited. This feels like the potential icing on the cake of a return to a fun lineup that produces. I don't want to put too much on one dude's shoulder, but we talked about him last week. Noot seemed like he was kind of bringing it all together before he got hurt again. Now he's began his rehab. Should be back relatively soon, assuming rehab goes well. I'm excited. More Noot.
Yeah, I think I don't think the rehab is going to take all that long, and I think there's a chance. I could see him being the best player on the Cardinals in the second half of the season if he can just stay healthy. But kind of, you settle him into the top of the lineup. I don't know if he kicks Mason Wynn out of the leadoff position. Maybe you do, Noot, Burley, Contreras to start off, or I don't know exactly how it looks. Maybe there's some kind of machination, but him being in the top four probably makes a lot of sense, and especially against right-handed pitching. But can't wait to have Noot back. And I think he'll be, like I said, I just expect him to be great the second half of the season.
Man, Wynn hit his 17th double last night.
Yeah.
And going into this year, if you had said Wynn will hit 17 doubles this year, I would have been like, hell yeah, that's pretty good. That's a pretty good growth for him. Yeah. That's not bad. Okay, maybe we get up to 25, 30 doubles in his next year. And the fact that we're at halfway and he's already at 17. I mean, pretty remarkable.
You can't say it enough. He has just been amazing and hasn't really had a long bump, hasn't had a real long dip or anything like that. And continued to play great defense. His defense is actually getting better. He's the man.
Yeah. Yes, he is. Speaking of prospects, not as good of a
speaking of men. Here's another man.
That just be our transition for this entire show. Speaking of men,
we should change the name of the show to Talking About
last week. Talking about men. Yeah, that's what the world needs right now. Let's do a show called Talking About Men. Brought to you by
men.
You guessed it. Two men. Yeah. All right.
We're barely men.
The futures game,
Yeah.
a fun element of the All-Star break is coming up. And the Cardinals have a couple of representations there, a couple of
Let's go.
representatives. One, not surprising at all, Tink Hence continuing his ascension to top pitching prospect in baseball, and followed by new kid on the block. He's new in town, Quinn Matthews, who was recently promoted to Double A.
Yeah.
I know you and Kyle spoke a lot about Quinn on the episode a month or two ago, and he's continued to do well, and he's facing higher and higher challenges, which I know Kyle really spoke about. Like, it's pretty obvious he can crush the lower minors. We won't really know what we have with Quinn Matthews until he starts seeing the higher minors and eventually
Right.
MLB level. But it's really fun to have him in this futures game.
Yeah, it's extremely exciting. He's only just looked better and better and better. That fastball velo is really impressive. The breaking stuff is really impressive. And of course, he has that knockout changeup. So, yeah, like you said, he just got promoted to Double A. He has only had one start there. So, we will obviously watch his career with great interest and see what happens there. And I think we should also take the time to point out that while Tink Hintz had a little bit of an injury issue this season and kind of a slow start, he has hit the gas pedal since then.
Yes.
So he now has 54 and 2/3 innings over 12 games started in Double A. He's rocking an over 12 K per nine and under 3 walk per nine. He's not giving up any home runs. His ERA is low. His FIP and XFIP are even lower. I mean, the kid, he's been lights out.
Yeah.
I think a promotion to AAA or to the big leagues is extremely, maybe not likely, but very possible. And Nate's dinging again. Can you just respect yourself?
Never.
All right. So Tink Hintz is kind of that dude. He's 21. I don't know. Like, is he going to come up and stabilize the starting rotation? Probably not. But he's doing all the stuff you need him to do. And
Yeah.
it's hard for me. We saw that fastball in spring training. It's hard for me to imagine that stuff not playing in the big leagues. But obviously, it's easier said than done.
Yeah. I mean, what more do you want from this dude? We're like, I think it's actually a pretty strong reinforcement of his future value when we talk about the struggles that he had, the injury, the slow start. Like, those are all going to happen, and being able to bounce back, overcome, and be even better is exactly what you have to do to be successful. And we're seeing that. So I think this to me all seems like he's marching towards a classic September call up, where we maybe give him a spot start or two near the end of the season. Hopefully, like, really the Cardinals' particular position in the standings in the playoff race and what they need will probably be the bigger dictator of that than necessarily his own performance. Though I could see a world where he gets promoted to AAA, crushes, and basically like forces the Cardinals' hand because he's playing so well, and you could always use more pitching, especially when you're in a playoff hunt. So there's obviously he has some control over it, but I think it's probably more determined by just like the appetite for something like that in a period like that. But it seems to me his growth and his performance means either September call up or battling for an opening day roster position in 2025. I'm hoping for just straight to the rotation. But we have seen Cardinals and other teams have some success with the short-term bullpen assignment when they get called up, and the transition to rotation as they find their footing.
I would have no problem with that. And I think especially we just talked about Graceffo. If Graceffo's the guy or whatever, and Tink makes more sense in the bullpen, I would have no issues with that whatsoever.
Yeah. Yeah. So pretty cool. And I hope he gets a good spotlight in in the futures game. He's already being talked about as potential top pitching prospect in baseball. There's some good pitching prospects out there, so it's hard to get to that exact tier. But he's pretty far up there, and it's deserved and a lot of fun. So, all right. We want to talk about the upcoming series and some league news and whatnot. But before we do, we want to remind that this show is listener supported by listeners just like you. You right now, wherever you are, driving your car, doing your dishes, firing fireworks near cats, whatever you are, wherever you are.
We didn't want that.
I don't. We can't trust our listeners.
It's fair.
But they're all the best people who want to show their support for the show. And the best way they can show their support for the show is by joining our Patreon, patreon.com/talkingaboutbirds. We spend a lot of time and effort and some money to bring the show to you every single week. And the Patreon helps us do that, helps us afford some of the costs for this, and just kind of keep the show running and keep the show growing. So if you want to support us, we appreciate it. Patreon.com/talkingaboutbirds. Everyone who subscribes gets access to our private Discord server. We've talked about it a fair amount today already. It's a great place to chat with other Cardinal fans, other listeners of the show, get away from the fractured social media landscape, the ad-ridden, frustrating social media landscape, and just come and hang out with us in a cool place and talk baseball with us. There's also shirts and a bunch of other stuff at the different tiers. So check it out. We appreciate it. If you can't join the Patreon, we understand. But another thing you can do to help out the show is to leave us a review on your favorite podcast platform. Been a little while since we've gotten one of these. We'd really love it if y'all would take a moment to just click those buttons. You don't even have to write anything, although we do love it when you do. Our last reviewer lovingly called us idiots, and it was great. So we'll take it. Tap that 5, write whatever you want. We love it. We really do appreciate it. And we love to see them when they come in. We love them, don't we, folks? Ben, where can people find us if they want to find us online otherwise?
Yeah, we do tweets at Talk About Birds. We are on Instagram at Talking About Birds. You can find us on TikTok if you want to look at our faces. You can listen to this show on Spotify or on YouTube. We're available everywhere. If you want to get in contact with us, you can email us anything to talkaboutbirds@gmail.com. You can find all of that information at talkingaboutbirds.com. And of course, as always, you can call us and leave a voicemail at 848-48-BIRDS. You can also text us at that number. And that number again is 848-482-4737.
848-48-BIRDS. Lines are open right now. Let's go to the phones.
Excuse me. Why do you guys suck?
Well,
I don't know, sir.
I love the commitment to the bit there. You can tell you started talking before you had any idea what you were going to say, which is kind of the nature of the show, though, I suppose.
Nailed it.
All right. So the Cardinals continue their stretch of games against mediocre teams, which overall has gone really well. That's part of why they have the best record in baseball in June, even though sometimes you split a series at home against the Reds. They will travel to our nation's capital. What a lovely capital.
Wow.
To DC to play the Nationals. I think the notable thing about the Nationals right now is we're really starting to see that Juan Soto trade come into view here. CJ Abrams started the season as looking like like a true breakout. Looked like he might be one of the best shortstops in baseball, sort of in the same mold as like a Trey Turner type. He's cooled off a little bit, but he's still having a fantastic season. And just this weekend, they called up James Wood, who is one of these mega prospect monster dudes who hits the ball really hard, kind of does everything. The question will be, can he put it all together at the major league level? And I mean, he opened up his career with an incredibly hard hit ball going the other way, and he looks like a lot of fun. Like every time these guys get called up, your Ellies, your Wood, your O'Neill crew, I'm just like, come on, Jordan Walker. I think he needs long hair. I think we need Jordan Walker to grow his hair out to
It's a
like
good
shoulder
idea.
length, because that's what all the other ones are doing.
This is just a personal opinion. I do not like his goatee. Jordan Walker, get rid of the goatee, my guy. It's not a good look. Makes him look like 35 when he's
He
21.
does. He's got old eyes too. He's got
Yeah.
somber eyes, which
Yeah.
makes him look a lot older than he actually is. But anyway, James Wood, like minor league level, incredible. He's one of the top prospects in baseball. He's only played 2 games now at the major league level, so hard to have any real opinion just yet, but he sure seems legit and is likely going to be a centerpiece of the Nationals going forward.
Yeah. They are young and unproven, but interesting. Mackenzie Gore is a above average starter who hasn't fully clicked in yet. Jake Irvin is having a really nice year for them. And Finnegan and Harvey at the back of their bullpen are as good as it gets. Outside of that, the team is pretty mediocre. Like Nick Senzel is their starting third baseman. Joey Meneses is still kicking around over there. But yeah, there's not a lot to be afraid. But CJ Abrams and James Wood could at any point turn a game on its head because they just have that kind of talent. Now they're young and inconsistent right now, like you said, but yeah, we'll see. And I guess shout out to Jesse Winker. He's kind of having a bounce back year.
Yeah.
Which is nice to see. I always a fan of him and his game, but he just kind of completely fell apart. Wink can hit. Yeah.
Yeah. After that, we get the I-70 series.
Wow.
Always a good time. But the Cardinals are going to see a Kansas City Royals team that might feel a little different than it has been over the last 5 years.
Call them the new look Royals?
It's the new look Royals.
Wow.
They have one of my favorite players in baseball, MVP candidate. Probably won't get it because of guys like Judge and Soto and Ohtani or whatnot. But Bobby Witt Jr., who styled his play after Mike Trout. He
Why
looks
doesn't
a lot
everybody do that?
I know, right? Seems obvious. He looks a lot like Mike Trout in the box, and has a very similar game to Mike Trout, except for he's elite shortstop instead of center field. But he can do everything.
Yeah,
and he's like 23. He's incredible.
If we're having this conversation next year, I would not be surprised if you and I say Bobby Witt Jr. is the best player in baseball.
Yeah,
it's coming.
Yeah, he does everything. So you got to look out for him. Cole Reagans, I don't know if we'll see him in this. It's a 2-game series. I don't know if we'll see him, but he's one of the more exciting young starting pitchers who they got for, was it Chapman last year from the Rangers?
2 months of Aroldis Chapman got them a potential Cy Young candidate in Cole Reagans.
Yeah, you don't see that as much anymore.
No.
And I think they straight up fleeced the Rangers. Obviously, the Rangers won a World Series. So
they're fine.
They're going to justify every move they made
and
say, we won, flags fly forever. And that is their right. They won. But you got to imagine they're like, what the fuck? Oops.
Yeah.
Big oops. Because Cole Reagans looks incredible. Fan favorite Salvador Perez is having a great year, doing what he always does, hitting the ball really hard. I don't know. Who else am I missing here?
Pasquantino is having a really nice year. He's kind of coming into his own and he's healthy. I like Michael Garcia. He's not totally putting it together, but I just love he's a excellent defensive player and he's super fast. I think that he's going to be a good player. Maybe not this year, but soon. And I think you cannot sleep on Seth Lugo. Seth Lugo in his age 34 season is putting together the best year of his career. And if you look at the underlying metrics, he has some of the best breaking balls in baseball, 2 of them. Just totally lights out. And what he'll do is I watched a couple of Seth Lugo starts because I've been watching the Royals a bit this year because they're much more entertaining than they have been for the past decade.
Are you saying they're the new look Royals?
The new look Royals, it's funny. If you watch a Seth Lugo start, he'll throw, it's just like junk ball, junk ball, junk ball. And then he'll throw 93 kind of down the middle, and people are swinging at it like it's 103.
Yeah.
And he just does it over and over again. He's had a great year. He's very impressive. But yeah, outside of that, we might get to see Michael Wonka. Their bullpen kind of sucks. Their
Yeah.
team's not all the way there. I think they are obviously on the rise, though. They are a team that is only going to get better and better.
Yeah, their offense is pretty varied.
Yeah.
They've got mashers, they've got speed guys, they got Bobby Witt who can do everything. Like, it's a pretty good lineup that can beat you. So 2 games, always a fun series. Hopefully it goes well, but I love watching the Cardinals play the Royals.
Hell yeah, brother.
All right, little bit of league news. Let's hop in. What you got for us, Hambone?
Yeah, the stupid Brewers, our NL Central Division rivals, make a very interesting trade. They trade for Aaron Savali from the Rays to the Brewers for some minor league guys. I think this is a good trade for the Brewers. I
think
like
so,
that
too.
they're doing it as early as they're doing it. And I think Savali will fit in really well there. So credit to the Brewers for getting it done quick. Obviously, they're trying to stay above the Cardinals. So I think it's a smart move, smartly timed. They didn't give up anything from their big league roster to get this. And of course, the Rays just continue to grab your pitchers, make them better, trade them back to somebody else, and bolster their farm system.
Yep.
It goes back to that.
Yeah.
Was that Sam Miller tweet? Great trade for the Rays. I wonder who they got and who they gave up. But it just always seems to work out for them. But I think this will help the Brewers in the short term and the Rays in the long term.
So I agree. I think this makes a lot of sense, and I'd love to see the Cardinals have the same sorts of urgency. Savali's not had a particularly good year. Some of that is bad luck. His ERA is far higher than his expected ERA and XFIP, and he has had a history of success. But I think a lot of people were anticipating the Rays to like do what they did with like Zach Eflin last year, and take a guy who's been sort of middling and refine him and make him excellent. And they didn't quite do that.
No,
with Savali, but the Brewers also didn't give up a lot either. So it's a pretty good trade. I think you could see a world where he just gets crushed as a Brewer also, less good ballpark. There's a lot of reasons why this might not be like a game changer for the Brewers. But again, I do like to see that urgency. And I wish I would have been pretty happy if the Cardinals had traded for Aaron Savali with this cost. So I'm disappointed that it was the Brewers.
But it might be
a nothing.
The Brewers have Dallas Keuchel in their starting rotation right now. They need, so that's why I'm really praising this deal. They need it. They got it.
Yeah.
It was nothing. And he is absolutely a major league starter. He is not going to be starting game 1 of the playoffs. But I think this was a smart move and smartly timed, like I said.
Yeah. I hope it goes horribly.
Yes. Hopefully everyone dies. The Marlins have designated former All-Star Tim Anderson for assignment. I don't really have much flavor to add to this other than I really like TA. It was one of my favorite players. I loved watching him play, and he's just completely disintegrated into nothing to the point where he's being dropped by a team who doesn't have a shortstop. It's bummer.
Yeah, I mean, his version of success was always a tight wire or a tightrope walk, right? Like it's the same thing with a Arias, like a really high batting average, with a little bit of power is incredibly valuable. But the moment that incredibly high batting average becomes not, the wheels start to fall off a little bit, But still, this collapse. I mean, I loved Tim Anderson too. I was a big fan of him, and he had some incredibly successful years with the White Sox. And it is just, a complete collapse. to the point where I wonder if he even gets picked up. If you're being dropped by the Marlins,
yeah, I don't know. Maybe he'll take
he'll
a minor
probably get
league
a minor
assignment.
league deal somewhere.
Yeah,
you know,
he needs help. No home runs this year. He's not walking. He's striking out a lot.
yeah. Well, he's always been
Just bad.
He swung at everything.
Yeah,
You know, he never drew a lot of walks, but he also didn't strike out a ton. He swung at everything. He hit the ball a ton. It went over the wall more than you would think, but still never a ton. And he was fast. And now he just swings at everything and misses. Or when he does hit it, it doesn't go very far.
he hit over 300 with a less than 16% K rate in 2022. Like,
Yeah.
it just wild. Okay.
A season and a half later, and he's essentially done.
Yeah. It's not great. And let's round this out by talking about Orlando Cepeda. He just passed away, as I'm sure everyone is familiar with, and obviously was part of some great Cardinals teams. So I just kind of wanted to spit a couple of facts about him. He was on the Cardinals in the late 60s. He won an MVP with the Cardinals in 1967, the same year that the Cardinals won the World Series.
Yeah.
And I
big Cardinal years.
just wanted to read off the names that he was playing with. So obviously Orlando Cepeda. And then some of his teammates were Tim McCarver, Mike Shannon, Lou Brock, Kurt Flood, Roger Maris, Steve Carlton, Bob Gibson, just to name a few. I mean, Hall of Famers, legendary broadcasters, some of the best to ever do it. Kurt Flood, one of the more important socially and for the game in baseball, just kind of amazing. And yeah, just Orlando Cepeda, obviously, just wanted to kind of celebrate him for a second.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, and again, won an MVP right in the middle of all of that. So like huge part of one of the like defining eras of St. Louis Cardinal baseball.
Hell yeah. First Puerto Rican to make an All-Star game. Didn't know that. Just read that right now. There you go.
Awesome.
Cool. And that's all I got for league news this week.
All right. Well, Hambone, we've reached the halfway point of the season. And I thought now would be a good time for us to check in on our little game, Draft Day Heroes and Hatchlings Edition.
Oh, I feel like I crushed it this year.
You think so?
I don't know. Probably not. I don't remember who I drafted. All I know is that Goldie and Nato, it's been rough. Turned up the theme on me while I was talking. That was extremely rude.
It was great. I think in the mix, it's going to come out where everyone could hear you, but I couldn't hear a single word you said, and it was my favorite part of the podcast.
That is just rude.
So if you new to the show at the beginning of the season, Ben and I did a draft. We picked 3 players from the 40-man, or from the, it was the act. I get it wrong every time. It was 3 players from the active 26-man.
Yes.
And then 3 players who were not.
Right.
And we've been tracking them. And whoever has the most Fangraphs WAR at the end of the season wins. So I will run through our teams, give you an update of where they are and where they were last time. We'll see who is leading. So with the first pick in the draft, I took Nolan Arenado. We've talked enough about how disappointing that has been. I was all in on the Arenado bounce back, and I thought at the very least the defensive floor would provide me with a ton of value, and that has proven to be incorrect. He is currently accrued 1.2 FWAR. He is up 0.2 from the quarter mark of the season. Damn. He was at 1 last time we checked in. Somewhere around 40 games, and now he's at 1.2. So there you go. Particularly disappointing last 40-ish games. I also then selected Jordan Walker, who maintains his negative 0.2 from the last time we checked in. And I selected Wilson Contreras, who is now back, but has not accrued any more WAR since the last time we did this. But he is still leading my pack, at least at a solid 1.8.
Okay.
I'm expecting he's my horse. He's my chance at staying in this.
I believe in him.
I rounded out my choices with Luken Baker. I'm hopeful to get some points from him here soon.
Oh, okay. I see.
I will say that is when I was preparing for this episode, when I was like, I'm going to talk about Luken Baker at the end. I'll do a bit about Luken Baker. And then I saw your outline where I was like, Ben wants to do a whole segment on Luken Baker. So
give me that Luken.
Tink Hens, who we also talked about, and Takoa Roby.
Okay.
So I've yet to have a debut from my hatchlings side.
Right.
All right. You, having the second pick in the draft, took Paul Goldschmidt.
Everybody was saying how smart that was. Everybody,
news reports left and right. Now he's actually, this number is sad. He has 0.2 F WAR.
Yeah.
So he's a full WAR behind Arenado. For all of our concerns about Arenado, Goldie is having a far worse season than Arenado.
It's amazing.
Which is sad. But hey, when we talked about this 40 games ago, he was at negative 0.4.
Let's go.
So he is on the come up. That is that is plus 0.6 F4 in your book. Here's your real winner. You took Sonny Gray next.
Yeah.
Sonny Gray
very smart.
Leading the pack. He's at 2.5 WAR, accruing, as you actually mentioned earlier, 1.5 since the last time we checked in on this.
Yeah.
And then your next pick, Nolan Gorman. That cold streak really tanked Gorman. He was looking like the true breakout. But he did gain some. He is currently at 0.3 F4, which does remind you that just hitting a lot of dingers is not necessarily like big picture valuable. He has 17 home runs and a 0.3 F4.
And is technically leading Paul Goldschmidt.
Yes.
Which is also weird and sad
and bad. So all your guys, though, gained in the last period. Your hatchling side was Thomas Sajaci, Gordon Graceffo, the first of this group to make a debut this year.
There we go.
Now he did not accrue any WAR.
Come on.
But he's now there. And Michael McGreevy, who has done nothing yet. So the final results right now, I have 2.8 combined F4.
All right.
And you have 3
Let's
on the button.
Go Sonny Gray all day. Yes.
So I was crushing you in the first check-in on this. But my team I accrued my 6 players, Nolan Arenado, Jordan Walker, Wilson Contreras, all these guys accrued a total 0.2 WAR in the last 40-something games.
Oh, no.
Now, again, Contreras wasn't here. Walker wasn't here. And Arenado hasn't done shit. So
it's still bad, though. It's still really bad. Yeah. Okay.
When we did this exercise, we're basically trying to predict who we think will be the 6 most impactful players to the team this year.
Yeah.
And
whiff.
Boy, could I have not been any more wrong, at least for the last 40 games.
Yeah.
It's actually remarkable that the Cardinals are winning. They had the best month in the NL, and it had nothing to do with Nolan Arenado, Jordan Walker, or Wilson Contreras.
Or Paul Goldschmidt.
Paul Goldschmidt accrued almost a little over half a WAR.
You're right. He did.
In that period.
Okay, yes.
So Goldie did contribute.
Yes.
As did Sonny Gray. Gorman did not really contribute. But he was positive. He had a 0.2. And so your team gained 2.3 WAR in the last 40-ish games.
Yeah.
Mine accrued 0.2.
We did not draft Brendan Donovan. We did not draft Mason Wynn. We did not draft Alec Burleson.
We did not.
All right.
Ivan Herrera,
Ivan Herrera,
none of these guys that have had, the impact. Except for Sonny Gray. You get Sonny Gray, and Sonny Gray was a huge part of this list.
Yes.
And the season in general. He's at 2.5.
Right.
And Wilson Contreras is at 1.8 for the season. It's just this little window we're looking at. He just wasn't there.
Right.
So we'll check in again, at the 3/4 mark and see how it's going. But right now we're neck and neck. You are winning by 0.2.
Yeah, let's go me.
Yeah. I won't root against you because I want these guys. I just want my guys to do better than yours.
It'd be cool if everybody did well, right, Nate?
Wow. You sound like a communist.
Okay. All right.
All right. That's going to do it for this week. Thank you, everybody. We'll be back next week, as always. Hope you have a great and safe 4th of July. Think of the dogs. Think of the kitties.
Yeah. Think of me.
Yeah.
I get afraid.
Think of Ben. Get yourself some hot dogs and hamburgers and whatever you want, and watch some baseball. And
maybe a pineapple flavored whipped dessert.
Ooh, a trademark free pineapple flavored whipped dessert.
Wow.
All right, that'll do it. Thank you, everybody, and until next week, go Cardinals.
See you. Bye.